Loki the Trickster. Oh man, I've wanted to do a video on this bad boy since I started this series. I was lucky enough to pull him, and now here we are. Today we'll be covering how this hero works, his strengths, and more importantly, how to build him properly. As always, if you'd like to skip ahead to any particular section of this video, check the annotations below or check the video description. With that out of the way, let's get started with a little background on this hero. Loki, the master of disguise and deception. He wanders the world in search of troublesome entertainment, his heart dark and cold. Loki takes great pleasure secretly instigating waves of confusion and chaos throughout the land. One evening, while crossing the snowy plains of Asgard, Loki stumbled across a quaint tribal village tucked between the snow-capped peaks of the valley. He carefully observed the village from high above on the icy cliffside. "How boring their lives must be," Loki whispered under his breath. "Not a single worry, not a care in the world." A smile broke across Loki's face. "We can fix that." Over the next few days, Loki devised a most dastardly plan. He would disguise himself among the villagers, slowly planting seeds of suspicion and hatred one by one. His goal was to separate the village into two factions, then watch war and chaos unfold from a distance. However, one figure stood in the way of Loki's plan, the tribal chief. After all, it was the chief's job to maintain peace and dispel any rumors that arose. So, to quietly remove the tribal chief from the equation, Loki disguised himself as a renowned sorcerer with a dire prophecy for the chief. Loki spoke eloquently as he wove his tale of lies and deceit. The magic of Loki's forked tongue had done it. The chief was convinced in order to secure the tribe's safety, he needed to pray at a glacial retreat for the next 100 days. With the chief gone, Loki went to work, and before long, the tribe was at war. Over the next months, the warring factions reduced the village to ruins. Yet in the midst of the ruins stood Loki, overcome with glee, admiring his newest masterpiece. Loki, much like his lore, is a monstrous mage with a comparable clear speed to Archon and a higher single target damage to boot. Is there really any reason you shouldn't aim for someone like Loki? Well, let's take a look at how Loki works and how to make the most of him. If we take a look at Loki's skill, Funny Balloon, we can see that it always does a flat amount of damage per bounce. Furthermore, his 1, 2, and 3 chains only change the number of times that Loki's balloons bounce, 1, 3, and 6 times respectively. Therefore, when Loki is equipped with his 6-star soulbound weapon, we can expect each of Loki's 3-chain attacks to collectively dish out 1,500% of his total attack power. Furthermore, after every 7 bounces, Loki will summon a Jack-in-the-Box that will dish out 2,000% of his total attack power. From this, we can estimate that Loki's average damage output per 3-chain will be just over 3,200% of his attack power. Holy shit, indeed. There's just one problem. A very big problem. Loki has no natural resist penetration. Without an appropriate amount of resist penetration, your Loki won't be able to beat his way out of a wet paper bag. So this means for our Loki weapon, we want an attack build with the highest possible resist penetration rolls we can get. As for the inlays, if you've managed to get 517 resist penetration on both weapon rolls, you can easily make do with 1 epic resist penetration and 1 epic attack or mononucleus sigil if you happen to have one laying around. Now keep in mind, since we had to invest so heavily into Loki's resist penetration, he is a very, very frail mage. As for his ring, try to aim for a double accuracy ring with resist penetration on top. I don't happen to have that, so make do with what you can. As for team compositions, in story and challenge mode, Loki will love a good strong Orfeo and an equally bulky Wolfgang. Together, they will boost Loki's attack power by over 200%, and Orfeo will pick up the slack for Loki's lackluster accuracy stat. Now, Drake is a viable option if you don't happen to have Orfeo on hand. Also, keep in mind that Loki is best suited for single target damage, so bosses like the one in Challenge 3 Hidden will likely give you more trouble than it's worth. Also, be very conscious about the distance between Loki and his target. While you can start firing from farther away, each bounce on the ground counts against his 6 total bounces per 3-chain. So if your Loki's balloons bounce more than 3 times before reaching their target, you're cutting his attack power by more than half. Now, if you're confused as to how it's more than half, trust me, since his Jack-in-the-Box passive is triggered by 7 bounces on an enemy, the more superfluous bounces, the more 3 chains you'll have to trigger to proc the Jack-in-the-Box. And as always, since it takes a while for Loki to dish out all of his damage, be extra mindful of your Shadow Mage usage. If you pop Shadow Mage while your existing clones are attacking, their attacks will be immediately cancelled and you will lose out on all of that DPS. As for Colosseum, Loki is as solid as a glass cannon choice can be, but he can be walled out by the likes of Alex or other magic resist tanks. Also, be very respectful of backline threat teams like Hansung. He can very easily be sniped by high inheritance versions of these backline threats. I've had a surprising amount of success when pairing Loki with a damage reduction Twilly and a standard Wolfgang. However, I could definitely see Wolfgang being replaced by the likes of Mew, Beatrice, Marpe, or any other defensive or offensive buffers. As a side note, if your Twilly is lacking in the bulk department, Alex or Mundok can certainly fill the tanking role. Lastly, Loki needs to hit his attacks. You might find it beneficial to switch Loki's ring out with a triple accuracy ring if you find yourself walled out by evasion tanks. And one more side note, since Loki's Jack-in-the-Box passive is incredibly powerful, but only comes after 7 bounces, rather than waiting for 2 3-chains, I often found it beneficial to follow my initial 3-chain with a 1-chain to get as much burst damage out on the field in the shortest time possible. And that's Loki. He's a devious monster with an even more monstrous toolset at his disposal. He may feel a little frail early on, but he can be just as destructive as Archon or any top challenge mode farming team. Let me know in the comment section below what hero you'd like to see covered next. I have a multi-part challenge mode guide in the works, and I'll be uploading that over the next few weeks as well. If you like what you've seen here, feel free to check me out on Twitch. I do Crusaders Quest related giveaways and play a variety of games. Check me out if you have a few minutes to spare. So with that, best of luck, captains, and I'll see you all next time.